It was meant to feel gentle. Plush armchairs, a crackling fireplace, a host famous for warmth. Everything about it said comfort. No one expected what actually happened. Within minutes, every question landed like a challenge. Every smile met a wall. Every attempt at kindness slid off. Kayla Hart came to host a conversation. Adrian Hale came ready for a confrontation. And long before anyone raised their voice, it was obvious. This interview would not finish the way it started. The set looked more like a cozy retreat than a TV stage. A stone hearth glowed behind them, flames snapping softly, holiday garlands catching the amber light. It was the kind of room designed to lower shoulders and slow breathing, to tell guests, "You're safe here." Kayla sat comfortably in her armchair, posture open, hands loose, exactly the way viewers had seen her for years. No stack of cards in her lap, no rigid list to run through. This was supposed to feel unscripted, human. Across from her sat Adrian, high profile, impeccably dressed in a dark suit, body still, shoulders squared. His posture matched the setting, but his expression didn't. His smiles were brief, functional. His eyes stayed alert, scanning, weighing. Kayla opened gently, her voice soft. "We wanted tonight to feel a bit like a living room," she said with a small laugh. "Just a chance to slow down for a while." Adrian gave the smallest nod. "If you say so," he replied. The wording was polite, the tone wasn't. Kayla caught it, but didn't press. That wasn't her style. "You've gone through a lot of transition the last few years. New home, new pace, new—" Adrian shifted forward, cutting in. "That storyline's getting old," he said, calm but sharp, "like I didn't exist before all of this." The air changed. Kayla paused just long enough for viewers to notice, then nodded. "That's not what I meant," she answered evenly. "I was just— People like to reduce it," Adrian went on. "Running away, starting over, rebranding myself. It makes for a tidy little narrative." His voice stayed even, but there was no mistaking the edge. Kayla drew in a quiet breath. "That's why I wanted to hear it from you," she said. Adrian leaned back, arms resting along the chair. "Most people only hear what they've already decided," he replied. "Interviews don't usually change that." That was the first visible crack in the cozy atmosphere. Kayla stayed composed. "So, what does sitting here mean to you?" she asked. Adrian hesitated, his lips pressing together for a beat. "You want bluntness?" he asked. Kayla held his gaze. "Always." He gave a quick, tight smile. "People say they want bluntness," he said, "until they don't like where it goes." The sound of the fire seemed louder for a moment. Kayla tilted her head slightly, still calm. "My audience can handle being uncomfortable," she said. Adrian looked directly at her. "We'll find out," he said. The temperature in the room had dropped a few degrees. Nothing dramatic, just colder. Kayla tried a different entry point. "When you're away from headlines and cameras, what actually makes you feel calm?" she asked. Adrian exhaled through his nose. "That's one of those questions people ask so they can feel closer to you. It doesn't really mean much." Kayla sat back slightly, her smile thinner now, but still present. "It means something to the people watching," she replied. Adrian's jaw tightened. "Not everything is meant to be shared," he said. For the first time, the conversation stopped feeling mutual. The room was still pretty, the lighting was still flattering, but the energy had changed. Kayla subtly adjusted in her seat, the tiny physical reset of a seasoned host who feels a segment slipping sideways. "All right," she said gently, "let's talk about purpose instead. What matters most to you right now?" Adrian didn't speak at once. His eyes dropped to the floor, then lifted back to her. "What matters," he said slowly, "is refusing to be squeezed into storylines that make everyone else comfortable." The message was clear. Kayla nodded, thoughtful but wary now. "I hear that," she said quietly. Adrian didn't respond.
The silence stretched a little longer than normal, and in that extra beat, Kayla realized something important. This wasn't going to be a slow, friendly unfolding. This was going to be something she'd have to carefully navigate just to get through, and they were barely a few minutes in. Kayla could feel it now, an invisible barrier. It wasn't open anger, and it wasn't outrage. It was something cooler, distance. She shifted again, planting herself a little more firmly in her chair, the way only a veteran host does when a conversation drifts off its intended track. "All right," she said softly. "You mentioned storylines, narratives. That word comes up a lot when people talk about you and Lena." Adrian's eyes snapped up instantly. "There it is," he said, almost amused. "We always get around to that." Kayla didn't flinch. "She's your partner, your family. It's natural for people to—" "Natural for who?" Adrian cut in. His tone wasn't loud, but it had hardened. "For people who see you as a pair," she explained. Adrian leaned forward slightly, elbows on his knees. "That's part of the issue," he said. "We're not a logo, we're not a campaign, but conversations like this always drift towards how we're packaged." The word hung in the air. Kayla nodded slowly. "I'm not trying to package you," she said. "I'm trying to understand you." Adrian smiled again, but this time it came with a thin sheen of superiority. "With respect," he said, "understanding usually arrives with a set of assumptions attached." Kayla exhaled quietly. "All right," she said. "Let me put it another way." She paused, choosing her wording carefully. "When you look back at the choices that changed everything," she asked, "do you feel settled about them?" Adrian's jaw flexed. "Settled," he repeated. "That's a loaded term." "How so?" Kayla asked gently. "It suggests the chaos was something I created for fun, like I woke up one morning and thought, let me blow everyone's life up today." "I didn't say that," Kayla responded, still calm. "You didn't," Adrian agreed, "but it's always hanging there. It's always implied." The temperature seemed to drop again. Kayla tilted her head slightly, still calm. "My audience can handle being uncomfortable," she said. Adrian looked directly at her. "We'll find out," he said. The temperature in the room had dropped a few degrees, nothing dramatic, just colder. Kayla tried a different entry point. "When you're away from headlines and cameras, what actually makes you feel calm?" she asked. Adrian exhaled through his nose. "That's one of those questions people ask so they can feel closer to you. It doesn't really mean much." Kayla sat back slightly, her smile thinner now, but still present. "It means something to the people watching," she replied. Adrian's jaw tightened. "Not everything is meant to be shared," he said. For the first time, the conversation stopped feeling mutual. The room was still pretty, the lighting was still flattering, but the energy had changed. Kayla subtly adjusted in her seat, the tiny physical reset of a seasoned host who feels a segment slipping sideways. "All right," she said gently, "let's talk about purpose instead. What matters most to you right now?" Adrian didn't speak at once. His eyes dropped to the floor, then lifted back to her. "What matters," he said slowly, "is refusing to be squeezed into storylines that make everyone else comfortable." The message was clear. Kayla nodded, thoughtful but wary now. "I hear that," she said quietly. Adrian didn't respond. The silence stretched a little longer than normal, and in that extra beat, Kayla realized something important. This wasn't going to be a slow, friendly unfolding. This was going to be something she'd have to carefully navigate just to get through, and they were barely a few minutes in.
"Circus? This isn't about some faceless machine," Kayla replied. "This is about the way we're talking to each other, here and now. This entire talk only exists because of that machine," Adrian said, his voice hardening. Kayla leaned forward now, too, her patience visibly thinning. "Then why agree to be here," she asked, "if you see this as nothing more than a trap?" Adrian stared at her. "Because staying silent gets punished more than pushing back," he said, "and because people in your position always want to walk away looking like the reasonable ones." That line cut deeper than the rest. Kayla inhaled slowly, eyes narrowing just a fraction. "People in my position," she repeated. Adrian heard it too late. "I meant media," he said quickly. "Networks, platforms." Kayla didn't let it slide. "No," she said quietly. "You meant me." Silence followed. The fire suddenly seemed too loud. Adrian didn't apologize. Instead, he sank back into his chair. "If the description fits," he said softly. That was the moment the remaining warmth in the room finally fractured. Kayla nodded once, lips pressed together. "All right," she said, "then let's reset the tone." Adrian's mouth curved into a faint smirk. "Why?" he asked. "So we can pretend this is going smoothly." Kayla looked at him steadily. "So we can at least close this with mutual respect," she said. Adrian laughed under his breath. "Respect," he repeated. "That's an interesting choice of word." Kayla's voice grew sharper, not louder, just more defined. "Adrian," she said, "respect has to move in both directions, and at the moment you're not offering any." Adrian's eyes cooled. "I didn't show up here to be scolded. And I didn't invite you here to be spoken to like I'm beneath you." The room froze. For the first time, Adrian looked genuinely caught off guard. Kayla held her posture, voice steady but no longer soft. "We can keep talking," she said, "but only if we both agree to show up as adults." Adrian stared at her. "Or what?" he asked. Kayla didn't rush her answer. When she finally spoke, it was quiet but crystal clear. "Or we stop," she said. Everyone in the studio understood instantly. This was not drifting toward reconciliation, it was heading toward an ending. Adrian shifted in his seat, irritation now fully visible. "You wouldn't," he said. Kayla didn't blink. The space between them wasn't measured in feet anymore, it was measured in finality. The silence that followed went on longer than anyone expected. Adrian leaned back, jaw tight, eyes locked on Kayla like he was daring her to be the first to look away. The fire glowed behind them, holiday lights twinkling around a set that suddenly felt anything but cozy. Kayla didn't rush to break the silence. She'd learned years ago that authority doesn't require volume. "Adrian," she said calmly, "this isn't a trial, and it's not a battlefield." Adrian let out a small scoff. "That's funny," he said, "because it feels like I'm under a spotlight with questions coming from every angle." Kayla nodded once. "That tells me more about how you walked into this, not about who's sitting across from you." Adrian leaned forward again, his restraint slipping. "I came here to be honest, not to be dissected on a couch for daytime entertainment. Kayla invited you here to talk, not to be accused, dismissed, or talked down to on my own show. So now I'm disrespectful because I'm not performing thank yous. No," Kayla said, "you're being disrespectful because you've decided there's hostility where there isn't any, and then you punish people for it." "I don't understand," Adrian insisted. "You sit in comfort. I live with what happens after this." Kayla leaned in slightly, her voice firm but even. "And you don't get to swing your pain around like a weapon. Not here." The words landed heavily. For the first time, Adrian looked genuinely rattled. "You're telling me how I'm allowed to speak?" he snapped. "I'm telling you what it takes to stay in this chair," Kayla replied. The cameras caught everything, the stillness, the tension, the moment when the interview stopped being a shared space and turned into a line drawn. Adrian gave a short, bitter laugh. "Unbelievable," he muttered. "You're proving my point in real time." Kayla didn't blink. She leaned back, folded her hands in her lap, and spoke with a clarity that cut straight through the noise. "Adrian," she said, "I've tried to meet you with empathy. I've given you room. I've adjusted where this was going more than once, and you've responded by escalating." Adrian opened his mouth to jump in. Kayla lifted one hand, not harshly, just decisively. "I'm not done," she said. The room went still.
"You don't have to agree with me," she continued. "You don't owe me that, but you do owe this space a basic level of respect." Adrian suddenly stood. "So what? You're sending me off the set?" Kayla rose too, slowly and deliberately. "I'm ending the interview," she said, "because this has stopped being constructive." Adrian stared at her. "You just can't handle honesty." Kayla shook her head. "No," she answered quietly, "I won't keep making room for hostility." Her words seemed to echo against the studio walls. Crew members shifted uncertainly. One camera operator half lowered their rig, unsure if they should keep filming. Adrian grabbed his jacket from the back of his chair. "This," he said bitterly, "is exactly why people stop trusting shows like this. They smile at you until you push back, then the mask drops." Kayla didn't raise her voice. "I didn't invite you here to fight. I invited you here to share. Those are not the same." Adrian paused a beat, then scoffed. "Enjoy the cozy set. I'm done." He walked past the cameras, through the lights, under the garlands and festive decorations that now felt anything but cozy against what he'd left behind. The door closed gently. Kayla stayed standing for a moment, eyes closed, taking one slow breath to steady herself. Then she turned to the main camera. Her voice was calm, professional, steady. "Sometimes," she said, "the kindest thing you can do for yourself and for the people watching is to end a conversation that's no longer grounded in mutual respect." She gave a small nod. "We wish Adrian well." The cameras cut away. The studio exhaled. No yelling, no dramatic meltdown, just a firm boundary, drawn and held. By the time viewers finished processing what they'd seen, one thing was obvious. This wasn't a dramatic storm-out, it was an exit defined by limits. What started like a quiet fireside talk ended as a lesson in boundaries. Was Adrian being brutally honest, or simply unwilling to really hear anyone else? And was Kayla right to call it when respect left the room? If you're into tense, slow-burn interviews where silence says more than shouting, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and check out the next story where one moment changes everything. All characters and events in this story are fictionalized for narrative purposes.